Yo, what's up? It's Jason. I'm back again with another video and another contest entry. This one is for our good buddy Rick, Dreadful Rick over at the Dreadful Minutes. Killer channel, really great guy, laid back, funny, does a lot of cool edits with his videos, etc. I think I first discovered Rick on the live streams over on like Heavy Metallurgy, and then started checking out his channel. And yeah, he's celebrating 600 subscribers, well deserved. Should have way more actually. If you haven't checked out his channel or subbed, do yourself a favor and check it out. I will post a link down below. Yeah, so for this contest, man, he kind of set it up like it's going to be easy, but I don't think it's that easy. This is actually my second or third take on this thing now. Also, I did notice that he took almost an hour to explain the contest. Actually, he threw in a lot of other things too in his video, but I'll put a link to that as well. So basically, he wants us to show our influences, music that's influenced us, or our name, our channel name, etc., or that we're basically into, influenced us, or we have influenced it, I guess. So I'll just dive into this thing after doing a couple tries. I'm going to kick off with the record that probably started all my record and music collecting. How did it all begin many, many decades ago? Well, I think it kind of began with this record, actually, because I was given this as a little kid, maybe like 5 years old. Somebody in the family gave me this record, and this started a whole chain reaction. My mom was into like music, listening to music and old rock and stuff. I remember listening to Queen, Meatloaf, all that kind of stuff. And Joe Jackson, also Billy Joel. She was into all that stuff. And some reason I got a Kiss album, and yeah, and this is the actual original copy still in my possession, Canadian pressing. Only thing is I'm missing one of the discs, so couldn't quite keep it in perfect condition over the years, but pretty amazing that I got that record for like 40 years or something. So I always joke that I was kind of born a metalhead, because from Kiss I got into like Def Leppard, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Ozzy, Judas Priest. Very early on, liked all that stuff, which led to like more underground stuff and the discovery of this band that I'm out of England. I remember watching the videos. We had our Much Music here in Canada, and Heavy Metal Pepsi Power Hour it was called. And they would show some of these videos, which kind of were like fake live shows, it seemed like, for the Venom videos. But they were just totally kick-ass and over the top. Rawness, the energy, the rebellion, etc., etc. Still a fan. Still think it's an influence on stuff that I do. Even though you'll see my musical journey takes a lot of different angles and twists and turns. I'm into a lot of different genres. But nevertheless, this stuff... Same thing with this stuff, you know, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost. Still remember first time we heard Hellhammer on cassette, hanging out with some buddies. We were just getting into like, well, we're in a lot of, you know, thrash metal, etc. Starting to get into some punk a little bit, and listen to Hellhammer. It just kind of opened up the whole options. Basically, you could do things. Realize you could do things very lo-fi. You didn't really even need to know how to play your instruments. So that was kind of cool. Big influence, this Hellhammer, on us, or on me. Even to this day, just that lo-fi DIY-ness to the sound. Of course, that led them to Celtic Frost, a little bit more musicianship maybe, but still dark and heavy. Really cool shit. Gotta mention this thing too, in my early metal beginnings. Love the darkness. Again, the lo-fi crustiness, the noise of Bathory's first album. Reaper, Hades, Sacrifice, still rock those jams a lot. Still an influence, I think, even on my techno, if that is possible. Well, speaking of techno, I guess before I get into the electronic stuff, I gotta mention some industrial stuff. I started getting into, from metal, I started getting into punk and hardcore. But also discovered some experimental stuff too, mostly through listening to late night radio. Being in Canada, in a smaller coastal town, we weren't exposed to much, and I was way too young to go to any live shows or anything like that. But Einstein and Neubauten came across my radar somehow, some way. They also had a video too, right? So I remember the video. A track not on this album, but this has always been my favorite EN albums. The first EN album I got, it's not my original copy, but it is an OG for sure. This is Drawings of Patient OT. Really cool, avant-garde stuff. Again, pretty lo-fi in some ways. They're like literally banging on pipes and metallic objects and shouting. I guess that's a quick description if you haven't heard the EN album. Their first few albums are just awesome like that. I mentioned punk and hardcore too. I was getting into Black Flag, Subhumans UK, Pistols, and of course this band. Probably my favorite punk band of all time, Dead Kennedys. Musically, love it. Just love the lyrics too, and Jello's vocals, the whole attitude of it. Probably benefit from the fact that they ended after 4 albums, so we never got to hear like shittier Dead Kennedys later on. Although there's been some revivals without Jello, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Dead Kennedys, big influence. Electronically, discovered a band called Cab Voltaire. Probably again through videos. The videos from this album, Sensoria and Do Right, the 2 singles on this one I remember. Now this is kind of a more accessible Cab Voltaire at this point. This is the point where I discovered Cab Voltaire. Like it's like '83 this album came out. Nowadays I'm kind of more drawn to their earlier stuff than this. All their stuff is great, and they have quite a catalog actually. But yeah, like earlier stuff, let's say like 3 Mantras on Rough Trade, and the Mix Up, which is their first album I only recently got in the last year or so. But yeah, Cab Voltaire, the earlier stuff is a little bit more pastiche, collage stuff, samples. This is a little bit more synth pop a bit, vocals in there too, but still a killer record. On the sample tip, I was really influenced by hip hop early on. Public Enemy. Man, this totally blew me out of the water when I first heard this. This was like a continuation of Dead Kennedys, but in a much more funky and hip hop style. Political samples, killer production, DJing, of course. I would say, yeah, my DJing really got started from hip hop. Listening to Public Enemy, listening to Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, all the old school stuff from the late 80s and 90s. This guy too from Philadelphia, Schoolie D, big influence on me musically too. Introducing the funk element, I guess, and just love the way the DJ scratched on this thing. DJ Code Money, cool style, sampling Sly and the Family Stone, all kinds of cool shit. Also into the sampling genre, Tackhead from the UK, Adrian Sherwood's project, well known for doing a lot of production and dubs. Got to meet Adrian Sherwood briefly at a conference, music conference, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. That was cool. But yeah, this is like a Tackhead band. He put this together with ex-members of the Sugar Hill Gang, along with Mark Stewart and the Mafia, Gary Clayle are all involved in this. And lots of cool political sort of references and samples as well. Seminal record. Still play it today. If you haven't heard that, definitely do yourself a favor and check it. Also some like no wave stuff from back in the 80s. Big Swans fan, especially the first few albums, just the heavy, slow sludgeness of it all. And of course this record, which I've shown many times, Soviet France. Probably my first introduction to experimental, along with Einstein Neubauten. This has a huge influence on my sound now, like when I do my own productions, etc. Just the noise and the drone, weird samples, tape edits and loops, etc. It's a double record, and yeah, it did come encased in this planks of wood, silk screened with rope. So a little bit artistic, that album. It's called Monomichi, I think that album's called. This band too, big influence. Still love this band. Got to see them finally, like 2014, I think it was 2015. This is the Bites Records. The first album I got into. I used to have this on cassette and rock it all the time. Love their videos too, with the kind of gory sort of horror imagery, the samples from horror movies. Huge influence. It's funny, you kind of hear all that stuff in the 90s death metal. All those samples Skinny Puppy was doing in like 85, 86 with electronic music. Also had that dance beat as well. And another big influence I gotta say too is a little English band here called the Smiths. They were also a big band for me when I was younger, growing up. You know, pre-alternative rock, pre-Nirvana, lots of teenage angst, etc. But also just kind of this boredom of living in a small coastal town. I think kind of identified with through the Smiths. Morrissey, that kind of stuff. Every Day is Like Sunday. That song really stands out. Breaking the boredom. Discovered some techno from Detroit. And a guy named Jeff Mills. This is one of his singles on the Access label, which he ran. Still runs, I think, to this day. And Robert Hood, another Detroiter. So some of that Detroit underground techno, minimalist, repetitive, and very rhythmic. Huge influence on some of the productions I do now. So yeah, before I get into some of the stuff I'm listening to now that is continuing to influence my sound and my vibe, I guess, overall, talk about the station name, channel name. If you haven't guessed by now, if you don't know yet by now, where did I put my props here? This is the label, Low Noise Productions. So yeah, my channel name is basically based on my record label that I started in 2013. We are celebrating 10-year anniversary coming up this month, actually, of the first ever release on the label. And then this is the one and only vinyl we have on the label, so 10 years with one vinyl. Kind of lazy. Now we've actually put out, I've put out over 90 releases, close to 90 releases on the label. We skipped a few catalog numbers here and there along the way, but most of the releases have been digital. Well, I'd say about 50% are digital and 50% are in physical format, usually cassette, mostly a cassette label, a few CDs, and the one vinyl. So yeah, this sampler is Low Noise 27. We're a long way from that. Only vinyl we put out, Red Wax. Little EP here. It's the logo that I designed. And yeah, this EP has two artists from Halifax, east coast of Canada, kind of minimalist techno, old school techno, and including one of my tracks as Transmit, which is one of my aliases I started up back in 2013 with the very first ever release on the label. This is it, Low Noise 1, Transmit 1, Transmit Tape 001. Created this artist, this project and this label for more experimental electronic sounds, industrial. The label started out a little bit more on the minimal and clean sound of techno, and it's gotten progressively dirtier and dingier and grungier and noisier over the years. But yeah, this early stuff is my attempt at some ambient experimental electronic, pretty short tracks, again kind of influenced by the shortness of punk rock. And you can see the last track, Witch Hunt, kind of a little bit of a black metal influence as well. So yeah, 10 years ago, put out the first cassette, and from there it just kept going. This is a more recent Transmit cassette I put out called No Progress. Get to see evolution here. This came out in 2019. nothing on the tape, black and white. This has more kind of scrapier industrial sounds, a la Einzelneubutton a little bit. Of course, it's more on the sample tip than actually grabbing some metal bars and banging on them. But yeah, industrial noise, some metal influences, I guess. And yeah, the other kind of stuff I'm into lately, I've been really gravitating towards this band, which I'm playing in the background right now. It's early demos. Love the early crustiness of Napalm Death. I got to see them live before I even bought or had any of their records. Saw them maybe 7 years ago ish. Local club. Kick-ass tour. Got to see Barney. Yeah, Napalm Death. Still really into it. Good, definitely fits my vibe. But also the fact too that the band members have all done side projects, including electronic stuff as well. And Mitch Harris, all of them. This stuff, this kind of grimier death metal, been fitting my vibe lately too. Kind of an influence into my electronic where it can fit. Also, because I co-run an art space with my wife, some art rock as well. Kind of fits the vibe lately. And this artist, which is really one of my favorite artists right now, Bo Wanzer, huge fan of. Also this guy too, Hieroglyphic Being. This is a split release. But yeah, I've been a big fan of Bo Wanzer stuff, including this side project he put out. Just showed that like 3 times in the last week. This is one of his albums too, Bo Wanzer. Chicago-based artist, does sort of like mutant electronic and industrial tracks. A bit of a lo-fi tinge at times as well. This is very DIY as well. This is his own release on his own label, or not on a label. But he has stuff on other labels too. Very cool artist. There you go. So those are some of my influences, or what's influencing me, and how it's influencing not only my channel but also my label and my own productions, if you will, as Transmit. Hope that does it, Rick. Congrats again, man, on the channel. Keep it going, and I'll see you guys in the next one.